Statistics reveal that nearly 80% of parents feel overwhelmed by the daily demands of meal planning and preparation. This can lead to a reliance on convenience foods which may not provide the nutrition our families need. As I reflect on my own journey, I can't help but relate to these statistics. My story is not just about food. It is about the emotional roller coaster of being a busy parent who desperately wanted to provide healthy meals for my family. Life changed dramatically when my first child was born. I was ecstatic. My heart swelled with love and joy. But as weeks turned into months, I quickly discovered that parenthood was far more challenging than I had imagined. The sleepless nights blended into exhausting days. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of diaper changes and playtime. Amidst this chaos was a fundamental question that haunted me. How could I provide nutritious meals when I barely had time to breathe? Grocery shopping was a dreaded chore. I often grabbed whatever was on sale. This led to haphazard meals. I wanted my child to have the best. I wanted them to experience the joy of sitting down to a homemade meal. But the thought of planning meals felt like an insurmountable task. I remember one evening when my child was crying from hunger. I had just finished a long day at work. I scoured the kitchen for something quick. All I found were remnants of snacks. My heart sank as I realized I was letting my child down. There were many times I felt the weight of failure. I remember the day my child asked why we never had family dinners like the ones they saw on television. Their innocent question pierced my heart. I wanted to create those moments, but it felt impossible. I could barely keep up with the demands of daily life. My evenings were a blur of picking up my child from daycare and juggling chores. Each night ended with the same thought. Tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow I will plan a meal. But the cycle continued. The emotional toll began to take its toll on me. I often felt overwhelmed. I watched other parents post pictures of beautifully arranged meals on social media. I envied their apparent ease. Why was it so hard for me? I felt alone in my struggle. I would sit at the dinner table staring at my child's empty plate. I was embarrassed to admit that I had no plan. I would just throw together whatever I could find. The meals often lacked variety and nutrition. I could see the disappointment in my child's eyes. I longed for the days when I could proudly say I made something delicious and nutritious. Then came the evening when I realized I was out of options. I had planned to cook a healthy stir-fry but found myself missing essential ingredients. The fridge was bare. I felt like a failure again. I settled for frozen pizza. As I placed the pizza in the oven, I heard my child ask why I never made anything special. My heart broke. I realized that I was not just feeding my child. I was building their relationship with food. I was teaching them what it meant to care for oneself. I felt ashamed that I was not showing them the love and attention they deserved. Days turned into weeks. I found myself avoiding the kitchen altogether. Cooking felt like a chore rather than a joy. I would scroll through recipe websites dreaming of what could be. I could visualize the vibrant colors of fresh vegetables. I could almost taste the hearty stews I wanted to create. But dreams felt unattainable. I was stuck in a cycle of fast and easy meals. My child was missing out on the experiences I longed to create. I felt like I was failing them in so many ways. One evening I sat on the kitchen floor surrounded by a pile of cookbooks. I had bought them in a moment of hope. I wanted to try everything. Yet I felt paralyzed by the number of options. Each recipe seemed to require hours of prep time. I closed the books and cried. I felt like I was letting my child down. I wanted to be the parent who created a warm home filled with delicious aromas. I wanted to be the parent who sat down to dinner and shared stories of the day. I found myself reminiscing about my own childhood. Family dinners were a time of connection. My parents taught me the value of home-cooked meals. They were not just about nourishment. They were about coming together. They were about love. I was determined to recreate that for my child. I just didn't know where to start. Each day felt like an uphill battle. I often felt defeated before I even began. There were times I considered giving up. The idea of meal planning felt overwhelming. I would sit on the couch exhausted. I would watch my child play and wish for a magic solution to appear. I wanted to be present for them but felt consumed by the chaos of my own making. As I look back on that time, I realize it was a journey. It was filled with moments of despair. It was filled with tears. It was filled with love. The love I had for my child pushed me to keep trying. I wanted to provide them with the best. I wanted to be better. I wanted to ensure that our family had the nourishing meals they deserved, but I also knew that I had to change. I had to find a way to navigate the challenges of meal planning. I needed to create the environment that would allow us to thrive. In those moments of struggle, I learned the importance of patience. I learned that the road to providing healthy meals for my family was not a straight path. It was a winding road full of obstacles. But I held on to the hope that one day I would be able to overcome these challenges. I held on to the dream of a family dinner filled with laughter and connection. I knew I was not alone in my struggles. Many parents face the same challenges. I had to keep pushing forward. I had to find a way to bring joy back into our meal times. My child deserved that. I deserved that. The journey was just beginning. As I began to grasp the reality of my situation, I realized that change was not only necessary but also achievable. I understood that I needed to make small yet impactful adjustments in my daily routine. The first step was to embrace the concept of meal planning. I started with a simple weekly menu. I took a notepad and wrote down meals for the week. This process felt empowering. It was as if I was reclaiming my kitchen. I could envision our family gathering around the table enjoying a meal together. I focused on easy recipes that required minimal preparation. I explored the idea of batch cooking. I found that preparing larger portions of meals allowed us to enjoy them throughout the week. This approach saved time. I could cook once and eat multiple times. I began to research meal prepping strategies. I discovered that cooking a few staples like grains and proteins in advance made it easy to throw together a meal at a moment's notice. This simple shift transformed my outlook. I no longer felt overwhelmed by the thought of cooking every day. The next change was to prioritize grocery shopping. I learned to create a shopping list based on my meal plan. This practice streamlined my shopping trips. I would no longer wander the aisles aimlessly. Instead, I could go in with a purpose. This meant I was less likely to buy unnecessary items. I focused on whole foods. Fresh fruits and vegetables became staples in my kitchen. I started to incorporate them into our meals. I saw a noticeable change in my child's attitude towards food. They began to explore new flavors and textures. To make the experience even more enjoyable, I began involving my child in the cooking process. They loved helping me in the kitchen. We would pick out recipes together. I would teach them about different ingredients and their nutritional value. This not only made cooking a family affair, but also helped my child develop a healthier relationship with food. They were excited about helping prepare meals. This was a big shift from the past when meals were merely something to get through. I discovered online resources that provided simple meal planning tips. I joined social media groups dedicated to healthy family meals. These communities became invaluable. I could share my experiences and learn from others who faced similar challenges. I was amazed at the creativity others displayed in their kitchens. They inspired me to think outside the box. I began experimenting with new recipes. I learned to adapt them to suit our tastes. This newfound creativity made cooking fun. One of the most effective strategies I adopted was to plan one theme night each week. For example, I would designate Tuesdays as taco night. We would gather around the table and build our tacos together. This brought a sense of excitement to our meals. It became something we all looked forward to. We would laugh and bond as we created our own unique taco masterpieces. This was more than just dinner. It was a cherished family tradition that fostered connection and joy. Another important aspect was to make use of kitchen tools that could simplify my cooking process. I invested in a slow cooker. This appliance became a game changer. I could prepare ingredients in the morning and come home to a delicious meal waiting for us. I explored various recipes specifically designed for slow cooking. This allowed me to have nutritious meals with minimal effort. It took away the stress of evening cooking. As I grew more confident in the kitchen, I also learned to embrace the idea of leftovers. Instead of seeing them as a burden, I began to view them as opportunities. I learned how to repurpose meals creatively. Leftover roasted chicken could easily become a hearty chicken soup or a flavorful chicken salad. This not only minimized waste but also saved time and effort. I started to appreciate the value of planning meals that could serve multiple purposes. Eventually, my kitchen transformed into a space filled with laughter and creativity. Cooking became a source of joy rather than stress. I witnessed a remarkable change in my child's eating habits. They were more adventurous. They embraced vegetables and grains with enthusiasm. I felt a sense of pride knowing I was setting a positive example. I was teaching them the importance of nutrition and the value of home-cooked meals. These simple steps not only improved our eating habits, but also strengthened our family bond. I began to look forward to meal times. They became opportunities for connection and conversation. I learned that cooking was not just about preparing food. It was about nurturing our bodies and souls. Looking back, I can hardly believe the transformation we experienced. It was a journey filled with ups and downs, but ultimately it led to a happier and healthier family. I can confidently say that my experience in meal planning and preparation was pivotal. It shaped our daily lives in profound ways. Through this process, I discovered the book titled The Busy Parent's Guide to Meal Planning: Simple Solutions for Healthy and Delicious Family Dinners. This book was instrumental in my journey. It provided practical strategies and easy recipes that helped me find my way. I encourage you to grab a copy of this book. It could be the turning point you need in your own journey toward better family meals. Visit LibriFFY.com to get your digital copy today. The insights in this book can empower you to transform your kitchen into a place of joy and nourishment, just as it did for me.